All the roll and go, where am I to go? Meet Johnny, where am I to go? For I'm a young and a sailor lad, and where am I to go?
Hello, welcome to Where Am I to Go? Today we're in Sheridan, Wyoming, and we are at the King Saddlery shop, saddle and rope shop, and I am with Bill King. We are on Main Street in Sheridan, Wyoming, which sits on the east side of the Bighorn Mountains and sits north of Casper, Wyoming. And if you're going to Yellowstone Park, you can come through Sheridan real easily and then take the trip on up over the Bighorn Mountains. The Bighorn Mountain Pass there is really pretty. Lots of really nice scenery and kind of Wyoming at its best. But today we're here at, it's the King Saddle Shop, right? Or is it King Saddle and Ropes?
King Saddlery, and then, I don't know, there's King Saddlery or King Ropes out here. And then this is the Don King Museum or Don King Collection, I guess.
And that's the part I really came over to see was the Don King Museum. But when you walk through the front door of your shop or your store, it is just unbelievable the amount of horse-related, cowboy-related things that you have in there. Your inventory is just phenomenal with bits, spurs, bags, boots. I didn't notice a lot of Western attire, you know, some pants, but quite a few boots.
Right, and when Dad first started the shop, it was strictly tack and saddles and absolutely no apparel whatsoever. And it sort of, you know, they sort of added that on as the years went by. So outside of that, anyway, go ahead.
Okay, well, the museum sits in the back of the store that sits on Main Street, and you walk on into the back area, and they've got a bunch of saddles for sale back here. But the thing that really catches my eye is all of the mounts, the animal mounts that you have. It looks like somebody spent some time in Africa.
Well, actually, the African mounts came from a gentleman that owned a big ranch west of Sheridan, and he didn't have a place or didn't want to display them anymore, so we wanted to know whether we would display them, and so that's why we have those. And then my younger brother Bobby, who loved to hunt, and one of the gentlemen that works in the rope shop by the name of Gary Mefford, they love to go hunting all over the country, so a lot of these North American mounts are theirs.
Cool. Yeah, it's not very often you get to see a full-mounted giraffe.
No.
And they've got zebras and elk and deer and lion rug.
And a water buffalo over there. So.
There is. And a couple of really unique antelope. Those antelope with the horns that are going different directions and stuff. You don't see them very often.
And I don't know what they're called. So anyway.
Non-typical.
Non-typical.
And then the ropes in here. You've got thousands of ropes. And you guys make all those in shop, right?
Well, not all of them, but I mean, they tie all the knots in the hondoos and everything here. And we do make some ropes downstairs, but we get a lot of the bodies made from different outfits. I mean, when Dad started out, there was all the ropes were made commercially by Plymouth or New England or somebody like that. And then Dad and a couple other guys started making their own. And now there's a rope maker, you know, in all kinds of different, mostly in Texas, but a lot of different places. And so that's changed too over the years, over the last 40, 50 years.
Okay, well, let's head on into the museum.
Okay.
This museum I visited a few years back with my daughter and found it absolutely amazing. It's not even advertised on the front of your building, I don't think. But it sits back here, kind of an unknown little gem, well, definitely a gem. And you get back in here, this place is just full of everything. I'm just amazed at what all's in here.
Western memorabilia. And a few other things.
I saw that you had a little coal mining display over here with the stick of dynamite and the plunger and some of that.
Yeah.
But you've got saddles everywhere. Is this collection yours or your dad's? Or
Well, it was Dad's, and yeah, he started out, and for the life of me, I'm not sure just exactly when and where he kept them all. He didn't have all these, don't get me wrong, when he first started. Uh, but he must have been collecting a few saddles and leather crafting tools and or harness tools. And where he kept them, I don't know. And then all of a sudden, he got this building, which was next door to this already, but it was a carpet warehouse, and they didn't want it anymore. So Dad bought the building and completely remodeled it. And we said, well, what are you going to do with that? And he said, well, I'm going to put my collection in there. Well, he came in here and he had, I don't know, 15, 20, 30 saddles and some tools that he had. He and my wife, they made, they're upstairs. You may have noticed them up there, but there's some leather tools around here that. And anyway, so that's how it started out, and then the collecting really began. Then the disease really, set in, and from there it was, and from that point of time, then there's been a lot of people who have been very generous in loaning, some of their things to the museum too, which is kind of rounds out a lot of the stuff that isn't Dad's or mine, or, I mean, when Dad opened it up, then I didn't know where I didn't think I had the collecting bug, but then all of a sudden I just started in collecting beadwork, and then my brother started collecting guns and knives, and my mother started collecting, I don't know, paraphernalias of some kind, and I think that was about the extent of it. But anyway, it grew.
It's pretty obvious somebody's been collecting.
Right, right.
How many saddles do you have here?
600.
600.
Then I've got about another 150 up in another room upstairs that didn't quite make the museum. So
yeah, you've got just about everything imaginable. I saw a McClellan over there. You've got some high-backed ones. What's the oldest saddle you have in here?
Well, in this row in here, these are probably this type here are probably the oldest saddles of the bunch. Now there may be
they'll say 1860 on them, 1850.
Yeah.
Oh, there's one that says 1800. Wow.
Yeah.
That is.
Well, I don't think that's probably 1800 like 1800. Let's see, that would be after the Revolutionary War
and before the Civil.
And before the Civil War.
They were using the McClellans.
It's close, yeah.
Mostly in the Civil War, weren't they?
McClellans, came from the Civil War.
Those did not look like comfortable saddles to me.
I've never ridden one. never really wanted to either.
How about the side saddles? You ever tried out the side saddle?
No, I've never tried out the side saddle either. But some people say the McClellan is not that uncomfortable, but you'd maybe want to have a blanket under you or something like that.
I was going to say rubbing
you raw.
Riding on two beams of wood just doesn't seem quite right.
Yeah.
And then of course you've got the side saddles over here, and those had to have been kind of a trick to ride too, I would think.
Well, you'd have to ask somebody of the other persuasion to explain that. But they were, before women were allowed to ride astride, they were certainly used quite a bit, and seemed to be part of the horse culture.
And then you've got a lot of different styles of bits and just a lot of horse-related history here.
Well, horse-related, and there's leather tools there, and then we've got the Al Stolman collection that's upstairs with his whole leather, or his saddle shop, and then there's a thing from the, you saw the Eaton's display up there from Eaton's Ranch.
Right, right. Kind of a panorama.
Dude ranching part of it. So.
And you've got a lot of tooling upstairs. The tooling up there is just
the leather
phenomenal.
Tools, the leather tools.
The leather tools, yeah, and all of that. And then you've got quite a few buggies in here.
Yeah, when it started out, we had all this room, and so there was a collection of wagons and buggies that the rodeo board owned. So there was several of those, and they were all brought in here, and we've managed to keep 2 or 3 of them in the hearse and everything, but we just don't have room for that sort of stuff much anymore.
Well, yeah, this is a packed little place. I mean, how big is this building? This
Well,
building
don't ask me that.
probably
Yeah.
probably 25, 30 foot wide and 60 foot long, and you've got more stuff in here than I've got in my garage.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's packed. It's packed from stem to stern.
It is, and it'd take you forever, I think, to look and see everything that there is.
Well, that's the thing. I'm not sure that anybody's got the patience to look at everything, in here at once.
And tell me about your Kodiak bear here.
I don't know anything.
You don't know anything about.
I'm not even sure where that came from. And he's been redecorated with an Arabian show outfit.
Bobby King killed him in British Columbia.
Oh, okay. Bobby King killed him in British Columbia, and it's a good sized bear. But like he said, it's got all the Arabian decor on it. It's got a blanket and headdress and
I think
saddle.
He was the only thing in here that we could display it with. So he got nominated.
He's just a unique feature here.
Exactly. Yeah, they used to make necklaces out of those. Indians.
Yeah, his claws are as long as a human finger.
Well, or longer.
Well, maybe even longer. Yeah, the palm is way bigger, but just the claw itself is a good sized claw.
Big bear.
And then this has always been one of my favorite things is old hearses. The amount of woodworking ability and the way that they put these things together is just unbelievable.
Exactly, and this one was one of the came out of Sheridan. I mean, it was with the funeral home here in Sheridan, so it's been around for a long time. And so I would imagine, back at the turn of the century, 1900s.
You don't get to see them very often. There's one over at Old Trail Town in Cody, Wyoming.
Is there?
But it's not nearly in this good a shape.
Yeah.
And you see them every once in a while, but it's amazing how ornate they made these things back in the 1800s with the glass. And I don't know how the glass stood up to the roads with the suspension systems that these had.
I don't either.
It just they're just totally fascinating to look at and to think about the amount of work that went into these.
Yep.
And then, of course, you got this gun collection here on the back.
Well, there's guns all over the museum, and this particular collection came from, one family, so that was nice.
Yeah, you got some old flintlocks and
There's actually a Hawkins in there. So.
an old revolving rifle and blunderbuss. Yeah, there's just so much to see here. So much to see. And then you've got your chuck wagon over here too. That I've always been a fan of the chuck wagons.
Well, this isn't a chuck wagon. This is a
sheep wagon.
Sheep wagon.
Well, I like the sheep wagons too. They look a lot the same, other than they don't have the box on the back. But yeah, with the sheep wagons, those guys just lived in those while they were out tending sheep. They had stoves in them and beds in them. It was a old motorhome, is what it was.
I was just going to say, it's your first RV.
And wood stove, they'd be able to keep it warm and still cook and an amazing piece here. I really like this sheep wagon.
Well, there's all kinds of stuff, and then there's this is almost all South American stuff here, all this, and Mexican, and then you get into the South American, bits and spurs and saddles, and
a lot of that stuff was really ornate, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, it can be, but I mean, like this is pretty plain. I mean, but what they did on these, notice on these trees, most of the saddle tree is exposed, as opposed to like on the western saddles, they're mostly covered.
And what was the reason for such a big horn? That horn's as big as your hand spread out.
Well, what they they're called Mexican horns, and what they would do, they would dally, and use rawhide rietas and so forth, and they would dally around the horn, which kept, once you got down there, it would hold the dallies a little bit better. And then, they'd let it burn, let it slide and stuff like that. So as opposed to in the present day where they put rubber around the horn, and, when you go to the dallies, you're tight right away. So
Right. Yeah. With a horn that big, and the way I ride horses, I'd probably have to hang on to that
Well,
thing like a steering wheel.
you could eat off the top of it.
Just about.
Yeah.
Just about. And then you've got a pretty cool little full-mounted stuffed two-headed
The two-headed
calf.
Yeah, that was and that's the real thing. That's not a what do you call them, a taxidermist deal. That was a calf that was born. He obviously didn't live, but two-headed calf, and they stuffed him. But it wasn't it's not a made-up thing like the jackalope or something like that.
Right. Oh yeah. Yep.
And then there's a steer horn here with a unicorn.
Yeah, he's got three horns coming out there, and then you've got some other really nice longhorn steer mounts up here too.
Yeah.
And some of this here must be, it says Plains Indian saddles.
These are all Plains Indian saddles. We got a Navajo saddle, and this would probably be a Southern Plains Kiowa Comanche saddle, a Crow saddle, Blackfoot saddle, Cheyenne saddle, and that one could be probably Southern Plains too. So.
Well, this is a really neat place. Highly recommended. Well worth anybody's stop if they're coming through Sheridan, or heck, even if you're within 100 miles, headed on your way to Yellowstone. It's worth the stop to come on into King's Saddle Shop here, and it's right on the main street in Sheridan. I just can't say enough about this place. It's one of the cooler museums I've been to, and like I said, it's definitely a hidden gem.
Well, thank you for saying so. Appreciate you.
I really appreciate your time, Bill, taking time with us to go ahead and do this podcast. And I'll send you a copy of it when I get done with this here, and then you'll catch up on what podcasts are and hear what we did.
Well, I'll get a little too old to know how to do it, but I'd sure enjoy listening to it. So,
is there anything else you'd like to say before we cut this off?
No, can't think of anything. I just hope everybody, if they come, they enjoy it. So
I don't see how they couldn't come and enjoy it. It's just too much to see, and definitely plan, if you're coming here, you want to plan on probably an hour at minimum to walk through the front store with all the things that you have. And even if you're not a horse person, the artwork and stuff is just phenomenal. And then Bill runs an art gallery next door. Is that mostly Western?
Well, Western sporting, landscapes. I mean, it's yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so if you're into art, that's definitely a place to stop to, and then step across the alley and make sure and hit the museum.
Yeah.
So thanks again for your time, Bill.
Yeah. Same here.
If you enjoyed the visit to King Saddlery, please stay tuned as we go to the basement with Nolan, who is a rope maker extraordinaire. He will take us into the basement of King Ropes to show us how to make ropes. I am sorry that this section is a little bit quiet on Nolan's part. The microphone did not pick him up as well as I hope that it should, so his speaking parts are a little bit quiet. But if you bear with him and me and listen, you will learn how they make ropes. And if you ever end up at King Ropes, make sure and ask for the basement visit to watch how ropes are made. They said that it is open to the public on request, so check that out. Okay, we are in the basement of King Saddle Shop where they make their ropes. And we are talking with Nolan Buckley. And he's going to tell us about how they make the ropes here.
Okay, so these ones here will be what's called a chicken rope. We start off with these two threads here. What I'll do is I'll loop them around these three hooks here and then kind of put everything around that front box. I'll take this golf cart here and I'll run it all the way up to the other box, and it's got another hook just like this on there. Double everything back around that, bring it back down here and tie it off. And then we'll be ready to start twisting from this end. So it'll twist those 3 individual ropes all at the same time. And as it twists, it's going to pull these boxes back towards us. Once it gets to a certain point, I'll start up the back motor, and that'll actually twist the 3 strands into one rope.
And they give you the cart so that you don't have to walk back and forth all day, or
Yep.
that's nice of them.
Yeah. A lot easier for us.
And then I see you've got different colors of fiber here, so that must be so you can get the multicolored ropes, I guess.
Yeah, just different colors and blends of rope. These ones here are going to be a red and white one, so it'll be kind of a bird's egg splatter look to them when they're all finished.
And how many strands do these ropes usually have when you get completed?
These chicken ropes here, I believe they will have 12.
Okay, the chicken ropes are a super small rope. We just saw them. They were only, what, maybe a 1/4 inch diameter?
1/8 inch on these
1/8
ones.
inch.
And they're kind of a novelty rope. We do have people that rope chickens with them. It's kind of a bar sport type thing.
I bet the chickens just love that.
Oh, yeah. So they'll, most of what we sell as far as just people that want souvenir or something, so they'll come into King's and don't want to buy a $40 rope just hang on the wall, so pick up one of those little chicken ropes and then just take
And they're $15, and you can practice roping with that just as well in your living room.
Yep. If you got a ball or chair leg or something, you just rope with that and get the technique down.
The kids.
Yep. Whatever's handy at the moment.
Keep the refrigerator open and rope beers out of it.
Yeah. So we'll run on down to the scissor machine here.
Okay, he's taking his cart down to the other end of this and hooking up the twister. And now you said you can make 60-foot long ropes at a time?
Yeah.
That's a pretty long rope.
Yeah. So it takes 96 feet of material by the time it's all twisted to get a 60-foot rope out of it.
Okay.
Depending on what you make, obviously the harder the rope, the shorter it's going to be once it's all twisted. So if you had like those 60 foots we make are triple extra softs. If you did like medium soft or so, you'd probably have to let it twist another 5 or 10 feet for it to get that stiffness into it. And then it'd only be a 55-foot rope.
Okay.
So we'll double everything off here and we'll run the cart back down.
And how much tension do you have on these ropes while you're tightening them?
This one here isn't too much. It's probably about 400 pounds on this one.
Oh, not too much, only 400 pounds.
Yeah. So our goat strings we make, some of those really hard ones, we'll have 1,200 pounds on them.
Wow.
Get that stiffness into them.
And then do you have to do anything once you get them twisted to harden them up, or do they just twist that tight to where they stay that way?
Yep, all the hardness is in the twist when you initially make the rope. You can heat it up, cool it down, and that's only going to change the feel of the rope. It might vary the stiffness a very slight bit, but most of the stiffness is just inherently built into the rope.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a neat process.
And then we'll wax them when they're all done. We'll get a pile of 300 to 500 ropes down here, and then we wax. And we usually do that about twice a month in the summer and once a month in the winter.
Cool. Yeah, that's just fascinating.
Yeah.
Never seen a rope made before.
Now you'll see this will be our center strand. So I'll bring it down and you'll see that these two have doubled the size that I started with, so they now have 4 in each one. And then the center strand will just hook right to that center thing down there and tie everything on up, and we'll be ready to build a rope.
Cool.
I gotta run this cart back real quick here.
Uh-oh. Got to take the cart in reverse also, huh? These little chicken ropes, I saw a price on them of $15. That seems like quite the bargain.
Yeah, they're pretty good for just souvenirs or people who want a piece of the West to bring back wherever they came from.
Right.
And they don't take up a lot of space either because they're only 13 foot long, so you can hang them just about anywhere. Now we're just tying this one off so it stays nice and tight. And just kind of get the strands so they all hang about the same distance, and then we'll start this guy.
And then that weight comes back down this way as it twists.
Yep.
And
There's
just
2 boxes we have here, and then we have that great big circle weight down at the end. That provides most of the back pressure on the rope. If that weren't there, when these ropes were twisting, they'd coil up just like a pig's tail after they got to a certain amount of twist in them.
Okay.
So that just keeps them from doing that, basically. You'll see when I pull this, all these strings will just tighten right up here in just a few seconds.
Okay, so it's winding right now.
Yeah. And these ones, because they're so light, we have to ride the back box until it touches the front box here. Once it gets to that mark, I'll have about 1 foot before it gets to where we need to turn it on at. So that just gives me time to get off the box and get ready to start the machine.
Okay.
Now, the drill bits you see laying around here, those are the counterweights we use. These chicken ropes, we don't use any drill bits. It's just the weight of the boxes themselves and that big bucket back there.
So here we're initially doing 2 strings at a time, and then it'll wind up all 3. Once you started out with 6 strings,
Yep.
brings it down to 3 that are twisted, and then from there it'll wind it all into 1.
Yep. So this rope will have a total of 12 threads in it all together.
Boy, you can sure hear that tension.
Yep.
I don't know if you can hear it here on the podcast. That's the sound of that string tightening up and starting to sing like a guitar. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's coming together, and then
And once this starts twisting, it'll push that box all the way back down to the other end. And reset the
oh, there you go. Yeah, it's got a little motor on the back that's just spinning that super fast, and that other box is keeping the thing separated as it runs on down. Wow, this is really pretty neat. Now, do you guys bring the public down here very often, or is this kind of an off-limited thing?
This, we give these rope tours all the time, so anybody that's curious or hasn't seen one made before, they're welcome to come down and check it out.
They just got to ask there at the front desk, or
Yep, this, anyone in the rope shop or leather side, whoever they're talking to, they can help them out.
That
Once
is-
it gets down here, we'll let it spin for 15 seconds, and that'll put the twist in the rope that we need.
this place is just a fascinating place all the way around. It's definitely a hidden gem for interest. And now that doesn't all unravel when you cut it.
Nope. Well, I just throw about 2 inches of electrical tape on here,
Okay.
and that keeps it together on this end. And then there's quite a bit of heat generated when this is twisting, so that'll just kind of glue it together temporarily on the other end until we can get them waxed. And that waxing does 3 things. It protects the rope from weather, waterproofs it. It also lubricates the rope so when it's being used, it doesn't wear itself out on sticks or branches or whatever. And then the most important thing it does, the most important thing it does is it keeps the rope from getting kinks and bends in it, which I'll show you guys when we're done with this. But if you were to take that rope right now and cut it off and bend it, it would keep it just like a piece of steel wire would.
Oh, really?
That bend in there until you bend it back. Once you get it waxed, then you can still bend it like that, but it'll spring right back into the shape it started with.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always wondered how they had those ropes so stiff, but yet when you go to throw them, they actually, unwind pretty well and uncoil to straight.
Yeah. And that's what separates a lariat rope from a typical hardware store rope is that hard twist.
Okay.
Where hardware store rope is built to be able to tie knots and things in, and lariat rope is built to keep a coil so it can be thrown and looped and such. So we'll cut this guy off here, and then you'll see that whole machine will reset itself. Everything will go back to where it started at.
Okay. Yeah, that counterweight's pulling the machine back.
So I just let it spin for a little bit because these have quite a bit of tension on them. Now, if I were to just let this go, that pig's tail thing I was telling you about earlier, it would just rat up like a rat's nest at the other end.
How many times have you done that?
More than a dozen.
You just throw the rope away at that point, or do you sit there and uncoil it for the next hour?
So it's still usable because we build these a little long just in case of anomalies on the end pieces. And these ones, since they're only 13 feet long, we'll get 3 ropes out of each piece.
Okay.
We can kind of compensate for that in our cutting. So if one comes out, say 2 inches shorter, we can just cut a half an inch off each rope length, and it won't matter in the end. So
Right.
they shrink up. There's so many variables with these things. They shrink up from the heat of being in the wax straw for just the particular person sitting on the rope tray or the rope box.
And what fiber are you using for your ropes?
So these are a nylon polyester blend.
Okay.
Each one of these little strings here has 3 threads in it.
Okay.
So
Yep.
2 of those are nylon, 1 is polyester, and that just gives it a good blend of strength and elasticity. You guys are welcome to feel this and the difference it makes when it's twisted in the raw
Oh,
material.
wow. Yeah, this is soft, and once it's all wound up, it's and I can feel that. I bent it a little bit, and it just stays, just like
Yep.
what you were
That's
saying.
amazing. Yeah.
It's wire.
Wow. Yeah.
That's something else.
Then we'll just flop it over here. And, we usually make about 25 of these at a time, and we'll switch out to another guy, or one guy just wants to stay down here and make ropes all day. He can build 100 of them, depending on what kind of rope he's doing.
He's pretty much left alone unless somebody like me comes along and harasses him.
Yep. Several of them guys come down here on occasion to work with other ropes or be in the hot room or something, but for the most part, it's a single man job unless we're making something that requires a really, really hard string, like those goat strings I was telling you about. Sometimes we'll have 2 guys on the cart, and we have to keep one guy still riding it while the other guy even pulls the switches. And we
Okay.
haven't built those in a long time, but we do them on occasion.
Well, this is fascinating. I really appreciate your time,
Yeah, no problem.
and thanks for showing us the ropes.
Yeah. Not a problem.
Okay. Well, have a good day.
You too.
Thank you for listening to Where Am I to Go? Where Am I to Go is produced by Loren Alberts and edited by the most excellent Steve Baumgardner at Baumgardner Ranch. Thank you, Steve, for taking all the imperfections and making it sound better. The theme song is by Woods Tea Company. Check them out at woodstea.net. And a big thanks to Anchor at Anchor FM for being a free and easy way to start a podcast.
All the roll and go, where am I to go? Meet Johnny, where am I to go? For I'm a young and a sailor lad, and where am I to go?